Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And today we're going to have a look at some old stereographic photos of Sydney from around the 1860s. So let's jump in. Okay, and here is photo number one. Now you see these are stereoscopic photos, so that's why they're doubled up. They're actually made so if you focus on this midpoint, the line where they join, you actually get like a stereo that your eyes combine them and you get like not a stereo, like a 3D image. So this first one is George Street in Sydney around 1860. And as you can see, we've already got light poles in here, just dirt roads, but this is fully built out on each side. You can see these, you can see some columns here. These are big three-story masonry buildings down the road, and they love to put these little verandas coming out from the buildings. These are not original to the buildings. These have been added, like retrofitted. But you can see in the buildings behind them, we've got the big chimneys, all brick buildings. So this is 1860 in Sydney. And as you'll see, Sydney was found 26th of January 1788. The first settlement at Sydney consisted of about 850 convicts, their Marine guards and officers, led by Governor Arthur Phillip. They arrived at Botany Bay in the first fleet of 9 transport ships, accompanied by 2 small warships in January 1788. So this is, the story. We all know the narrative. They've turned up to Australia and there's nothing here, like nothing. And they don't know where any of the resources are. They don't know where the iron is and the copper and the silica for glass and the clay to make the bricks, the lime, all this stuff. This is the story we're told. Nothing here, just nature basically, and the natives. And then we jump forward 70 years and we have basically a built-out city in Sydney and all around Australia, to tell you the truth. And this is Government House in Sydney. Around all these photos, they're dated basically 1858 to 1860. And look, and again, sorry about the graininess. This is a castle. This is a castle, is it not? This still stands, and it's still the governor's house, but it's a castle. And again, look, we've got dirt roads, right? Dirt roads leading up here to this construction, little pickets of wood out the front here. So they could build this castle, but their fence is a few pickets of wood. And then you can always look at the size of these trees as well. If this is a new construction, do we think they're having trees, this close to it? Because, they're fairly big trees. This is quite a big building, so they're, 10 or probably 15, 20-year-old trees, which means that this has been here for, at least that long. This is a photo of a statue of Governor Burke, one of the early, infiltrators. I mean, and this picture too, you just look at it, the same date, late 1850s, and you can see this is all built out, right? We've got these walls, these massive buildings in the background. This iron fencing, which we see everywhere, always the same design, always black, and it doesn't rust. Like the old stuff is still, it doesn't rust. All this new stuff they give us is just crap, right? Planned obsolescence. But in the past, stuff was made to last. And most of these, they've got like a sort of fleur-de-lis type thing on the top of them. You see it everywhere. This statue, of course, look at the pedestal here and the size of it. It's bigger than the statue. Like literally, it's bigger than the statue. So You know, does that make sense? Is because we see these pedestals in the old world everywhere with, you know, lots of things like obelisks on them and big statues and all this stuff. But you know, so they have probably just retrofitted these statues, knocked off whatever was on top, and replaced it with this. You know, putting themselves in the elite positions, shall we say? This is just Kirribilli. Now, this is like an estate. That's where the Prime Minister of Australia lives. But I mean, I just showed this. I mean, this is what they love to show us, right? A photo like this, and they say, "See, it was all just void of technology." But this is, you can see that it looks like a stone path, and it's got this little stone wall along it with these. I mean, they're probably iron. I don't know, maybe stone, but they look embedded, you know, into this just pathway. Right? This is just a pathway. So they show us this, but at the same time they say, but everyone just lived in shacks, you know, just bark huts. But this is what we see in 1860 in Sydney, Australia. Again, we've got this massive. I mean, this is built out. Look at this, right to the horizon. I mean, again, sorry for the quality of the photos, but you can see right back. We've got big buildings up here. We've got spires. The whole thing's completely built out. You know, 70 years after they landed, the story says, on a continent where there was nothing and they didn't know where any of the resources were. And at the front here, we can see this tree, and someone's built a fence around it, which is already falling over out of wood. You know, it's just such a juxtaposition. It doesn't match that you have this completely built out city, built really well, great architecture, everything looks beautiful, all symmetrical, and then they just whack this around a tree. And these buildings, do they look a little bit old? Again, sorry for the photos, but I mean, this one you can kind of, I don't know if it's the photo or not, but they don't look new, do they? This one looks like it's missing some windows, like window up here, might be bought. Oh, that's a door, is it? I don't know. But this one looks like it's been, you know, they've gone in and they've cleaned it up, but these two haven't been cleaned up. See how this is a lot cleaner and these have got weathering all over them? So the story we're told, you know, about people turning up in Australia to this barren land doesn't make sense. This is another shot. This is Macquarie Street, 1858 to 1860 in Sydney. As you can see, we've got this huge building here, and this is actually the original library. It was called the Exchange Library, and you can see it's got mud-flooded window here, and it is not level. It goes down around the corner and then down the street. I'm going to be doing a video just on that building because it's quite interesting, the story they give us. So keep your eyes out for that. But again, look at this build out, right? Double-story houses here. Again, these don't look, you know, they look a bit rough, don't they? They look like they're missing doors. Massive, you know, buildings out in the background here. Trees that are fully, you know, look at this tree. That's a tall tree because this building, which it's about as tall as, this is very, very giant size, like building, like literally the people are as tall as these windows. So this is a huge tree. So now, you know, what are we talking? If that's a, say, 40-year-old tree, then you've got to take that off the construction time. So we're back to these were built 30 years after they landed. Okay, but I mean, how? With convicts? Where did they get all their materials from? And of course, here we have the iron fence in the foreground, the pillars that we see all over the realm, and next to it, just, you know, a makeshift tin fence. So next to this, so big stone pillars, wrought iron, and then they just whack this next to it with a few wooden stakes. This is what they could build, not this. This one is just says the post office. Now, I'm guessing this is the post office. Here, you know, all the usual features, right? Very, what we're told is Greco-Romano architecture style. Got the portico here, got the columns, and again, sorry for the photo quality, but these are people down here. You can see this is a little man. This is the size of the door, and I think it looks like this is a two-story building. So look at how huge it is, way oversized. And, in Australia, it's like, why would you do that if not needed? Because all it does is take up more resources and more time to build. So if you're in a new fledgling country and you're trying to get established, instead of building something that's, twice the size it needs to be, you could build two buildings. And wouldn't that make more sense? And you wouldn't need as many materials. You could build two buildings for half the materials. So this is why this narrative makes no sense. And again, it looks like out in the front here, they've built like a little wooden frame, probably to put a roof on, in front of these big masonry buildings. Again, even this oversized, right? This is a guy here. You can see he's not even half the size of this story. And all with horse and buggy on dirt roads. This is St. Andrew's Cathedral. Same time frame. And these are not build dates, by the way. These are just the dates that the photos were taken. So this one was, again, 1858 to 1860. Okay, 70 years, and a few, 72 years or so after they landed with convicts and, a few troops to a barren land. And then they're popping this up in 70 years, which, clearly look like all the cathedrals that we see all around the realm, right? And they show us cathedrals like this in Europe, and they tell us that they took 200 years to build, 400 years to build, all these stories, but they rack these ones up, with unskilled labourers within, I'll go and get the dates on these and do a follow-up to this so that we can see what the dates are. But basically, they're trying to make us believe that this was built within 70 years of them landing, with a few, couple of hundred people, no skilled labourers, and not knowing where any of these materials are. Because, once they find the materials, they've then got to manufacture them, into blocks or into bricks or into glass or into iron. Then it's got to be transported. Then it has to be put together. Then it has to be finished. All these things. And then on top of that, look at all what's built into these things, all the stained glass windows, all the spires, all the artwork and the facading. But they just whack them up, right? And we're supposed to just believe this story. This is St. Mary's Cathedral. Okay, so again, this is the same date. So why would a small community need two buildings this size, two cathedrals? And this is why we get all these different mainstream religions. Like Christianity has, I don't know how many sects, but they have to have, the different types of Christianity so they can have churches designated to different types and explain why there's so many, what we call churches everywhere. And of course, just a random tower popping out of the ground. And again, wooden fence, guys, in the front here. Right, wooden fence. We just saw that last picture where they had the wrought iron fence and the big, columns or they have the big columns of the fence post made out of stone. And here, this massive construction, all done perfectly, with geometry built in, sacred geometry, fractals, frequency, all this stuff, and a tower. Why not? And then they can only just build a wooden fence here. So this story, this narrative, his story, does not make sense. It's not our story. This is the Australian Museum. Okay, here's some random person. Can't see much. Walking down, look at this street. Look at this. It's just rocks and rubble. All right, there's nothing. They haven't built any roads at all. But look at the constructions. Again, we've got the pillars, the Greco-Romano style, huge construction, and then up the street we can see it's all built out. And again, massive, masonry buildings. And what do we have out the front? But a little wooden fence and a few, wooden pickets. So, the way that they were doing these buildings does not match the way that, the new inhabitants, it doesn't match the skill level, does it? At all. And of course, with all these, Greco-Romano features, why would they be putting them in Australia? It's got nothing to do with England, who founded us, apparently. And as a new colony, wouldn't you be trying to promote Australia? You know, not another country that's got nothing to do with your founders. It's just a silly story again. Again, this is 1858 to 1860, and this is the Commercial Bank of Sydney, of course, right? The biggest buildings are always the banks and the post offices, the control centres, the Parliament houses, right? I mean, look at this. This is a horse, right? Yes, says he is in the foreground a bit, but you can see like this is a huge. This is 2 stories, 2 stories, and look at the size of it. This is a horse, and it doesn't even come up to here. Maybe up to there, right? Why? Why so oversized? Here's the man checking us out with his top hat out on one of the controllers. We've got a bridge here. I think it's a bridge. Can't really see what it's built out of. But the same thing, just these huge old world buildings, dirt roads, and of course, most of these photos you would have noticed do have light posts in them. And there's a big thing about light posts because if they're gas, where are the gas bottles kept? You never see them. If the gas is inside the actual pole, and that's pretty, high tech. But if there's no gas bottles, that means it needs gas coming under the ground, right? Piping. Who put it all in? And then we see them get changed. Well, we just see they tell us it changed to electricity, and they have the same post. So who did all the wiring and dug up? Doesn't make sense. This is the Exchange building, and the same story. Dirt roads, massive old world buildings that look old. This does not look like a new construction. With bits of wood, a couple of wood posts out the front, because that's all they can do. And fairly big trees next to these buildings. Now, if you're going to build a building that size, a construction that big, you're not going to leave a tree, within sort of 5 or so meters of the building. Within, a few meters of the building. Doesn't make sense, but it's there. This is the Pitt Street Herald office, and Herald is a newspaper in Australia. Of course, I love that. Right? Got to get into the propaganda early, and same. It's just the same old story, right? These buildings are huge, but clearly the whole city's built out. Dirt roads. It's been flooded, mud flooded. Sure, all the roads have been covered. Everything's been sunk a bit. So some of this pavement may be new. I'm not sure. They may have found it, post flood. We really don't know. But the people that were here may have been using these cities and may have been cleaning them up as the British arrived, because we do see a lot of these, pavements that are looking good. But I get that could all be retrofitting too. But just massive constructions, right? This is people, little. These are horses, right? Massive buildings everywhere. And this is a map of Terra Australis, 1802. Okay. The revealment's Mr. Bullinger. So this is Australia, 1802 is what they're saying, this map. 1802. Okay, so 1788 they say we landed. So 1802 is 14 years later. Look at this map. Okay, roads, sure, but look at all these buildings. Right, there's buildings everywhere. Now, these lines, I'm not sure, they may be backyards or farms, I don't know, but these black bits, these are buildings. Got a cemetery out here. And look, I don't know what these are. So I'm going to have to, I don't have the key to this. This is just a cut of the map. So I'll do some bit more searching and do a part 2 on this, and we'll check this map out and some of the dates of construction of the buildings that we've looked at. You can see here, there's a bridge already built. Big buildings all over the place. All the streets done. 14 years after apparently they landed boats to a virgin continent, shall we say, a continent with no technology at all on it, just nature. And yep, 14 years they've whipped up this, and we've seen the kind of buildings that they were putting in. So if you believe that story, I have a really nice bridge to sell you. It's not built yet. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Stay awesome, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.